It's 12 o'clock, so good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. Dumelang. Sanbonani. Abusheni. That's fine. So my name is Kutlwano, as introduced. I am the Chief Digital Officer at SALGA. So much for being a digital guy, ne? I need the help. And I was asked, and myself and Rachel, to just speak about the opportunities that are brought by technology, 4IR, 5IR, and how it can transform local government and improve service delivery. And I got more excited as well coming here because I'm speaking to the next cohort of financial managers, decision makers, leaders of local government. We are also best placed to take advantage of some of these solutions, some of these developments of changing local government. So I got a bit excited there, and that's just how we structured the presentation, just digital technologies and how they can improve service delivery. One thing that we know about local government, and I'm gonna take you through like this is a lecture, so if I get boring, raise your hand, interrupt me, stand up, start dancing, but I'm gonna try and keep it interesting, but also be as heavy in information so that you can go home and really reflect on some of these things, because your role really is beyond just financial management, risk management, governance, but it's really touching every single area of a municipality. Every single part of a municipality is directly and indirectly influenced by what you do, the decisions that you make, and how you lead the municipality to be financially resilient. It's also protecting revenue, but also just is sustainable in really navigating some of these challenges that we have. Local government generally has got a lot of data. There's a whole lot of data running around in paper, documents, in people's minds and so forth. And because we are very regulated, we also have a lot of processes that we actually have to support. We've got a lot of stakeholders, we've got citizens, we've got politicians, we've got civic organizations that we need to cater for and cater to in what we do as a municipality. By nature, we're also collaborative. This is just an example of collaboration here. We've got SALGA, we've got the CFO Foundation, we've got CIGFARO, and we've got people from different municipalities. So collaboration is quite heavy in what we do. Also, there's a lot of performance areas that we need to cover when we need to deliver development, services, water, electricity, economic development, social development. So those are a lot of KPIs that we need to cover as a municipality. At the same time, we're not doing a really good job in how we measure those KPIs as local government. So the KPI part is a bit light. How do you measure turnaround times and how we solve issues? How we measure performance using metrics and fact-based insights from the systems that we use. But at the same time, we've been lagging behind if we compare ourselves with other industries, because they've been speaking digitalization, they've been speaking 4IR, they've been using new technologies. Even on your phones, you're using a lot of technologies in interacting with other service providers that you work with, your bankers, your bank, and everything else that you maybe use, DSTV and so forth. And we as local government are also on a crossroads on what we need to do to take advantage of technology, to reimagine what local government is, to reimagine what service delivery is, to reimagine what we do as accountants, as risk officers, and IT professionals, and all employees that work for a municipality. So that is the crossroads of what we need to think about. What is the next wave of local government looks like? What is the future local government looking like from a lens of technology? But from a macroeconomic point of view, and these are things we should think about when we make decisions, when we approve budgets, when we think about an IDP of a municipality, what is affecting the nature and the context of our municipality in our country, right? Low economic growth, high unemployment. There's also lower revenue because of, if you've seen what happened post the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs, which has put more pressure on government to deliver, free basic services, which puts pressure on the fiscal capacity of government as well. But at the same time, we know that there's a lot of governance in local government. We're heavily regulated. At the same time, there's audit requirements. Every year when the Auditor General releases their outcomes of the audit work they've done for municipalities, headlines, wasteful expenditure, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes municipalities also spend a lot of time complying and doing less delivering services, right? Because of over-reliance and over-focus on compliance and not really doing that job that needs to be done. At the same time, I've put it in a black and white color there, is competition. Something that we don't really think about enough in local government. Local government municipalities are like any other business. We are the business leg of government. We render services, we get money in return. Even for people that cannot afford those services, someone else pays for those services through grants and so forth. So we need to think more business-like as local government. And as accountants and financial professionals, you need to inculcate that business-like business mentality, right? How do we stretch our buck so that we can deliver more services? How do we become more efficient so we can be more profitable and fund other programs? But similarly, when we talk about billing and rate collection, you're also competing with your multi-choice, you're competing with your Netflix, you're competing with your ShopRite, meaning people need to prioritize paying the municipality before they pay all these other accounts. But more often than not, it's probably last on the list. If you look at the collection rates of municipalities and the just financial status of municipalities, there's a lot of a challenge. So it means when we render services, when we engage with citizens, we need to think like they are customers and we are businesses rendering services. And that competition is very critical because then it eats on our lunch. We are competing for the share of the wallet of the citizens with your ShopRite, with your multi-choice, and everyone else that needs, that needs to eat on that wallet of the citizens. And we need to think about it that way. And of course, as I said, there's more and more needs that are placed on local government in terms of more and more people are becoming more reliant on the state because they don't have the financial capacity to be self-reliant. At the same time, we also have limited financial resources as local government. So these are contextual things before I even start talking about technology and how we need to use technology to solve our issues, is to ensure that we don't just bring in technology for the sake of technology, but we take cognizance of our context, our problem statements, our realities, and find the right technologies to help us do better in what we do. And of course, this is obvious. As a financial person, you're not only responsible for doing financial management and cost control and doing accounting and bookkeeping in a municipality. You're actually supporting and enabling every single department that's listed on the slides over there. People that render basic services, water, electricity, the infrastructure and technical services, the community services, but also the internal and back office functions like HR and sourcing and asset management. You need to immerse yourself in those units and get to know them in and out, because as a financial person providing financial advice, approving budgets, but also bringing in technology from our side at least, I need to understand how these areas work, the inputs, the processes, and the outputs that are taking place to enable the various outputs that are required and outcomes that are required of these functions. At the same time, when we talk 4IR now and some of these emerging technologies, we've seen in the last 6-7 years, the more focus on the development of high, fast connectivity through the rollout of 5G. And I understand some people in the room, maybe in municipalities, that are still grappling with just 4 and 3G, but we're talking about investing forward and planning for the future, right? As the world develops and technology requires high and fast internet, we need to actually drive investment in municipalities for the rollout of that broadband infrastructure. We've got cloud computing, which allows us to really introduce new system and host systems without us spending a lot of capital that requires servers and large computing infrastructure, but rather going on a plug and play kind of environment, which allows us to quickly deploy new solutions and new technologies in our municipalities and environments. There's blockchain, which is more about distributed computing, allowing for us to actually keep control and secure our data, secure our contracts, secure our information, and secure our money as well in a way that allows multiple control of data and all these things that I just mentioned now. Of course, all of you in the room have heard about ChatGPT. It's been the in thing these days, which is a subset of artificial intelligence, where more and more technologies are coming to augment and do the work that we traditionally do as humans, whether it's physical, mental, and professional. There's also machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence, where we teach machines to do things on our behalf and learn from all outputs that we bring in to improve, do things faster, do things better, more predictable, more transparent as well. Robotics, in terms of people in the room, speaks about using technology to automate things that are repeatable, rule-based, in a much more clean, quick, less laborious kind of fashion. For example, invoice processing, something that happens every single day, every single month. You receive an invoice, you do three-way matching and check if the goods were delivered, you check the PO, and then you do a release and it goes to someone else to sign. We don't need to be doing those things anymore, doing that mundane work. Machines can help us to actually recognize an invoice, read the text, capture that invoice in a system, and then allow you guys to only do things that are much more meaningful: decision-making, planning, approval. Things that are more mundane, administrative in nature are not what we should be spending our time, especially with the skills that we have on. And of course, there's also areas of augmented reality and virtual reality, allowing us to simulate our environments using technology. And this is much more applicable when we do simulation for training in areas that require a lot of space. If we're training people in areas of water infrastructure maintenance, you can actually use augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality to simulate and create a digital twin of that environment, and use the goggles and whatever else you could use to visualize that environment and learn and train yourself without having to be actually physically in that space. And of course, the data part is using technology to help us do better decision-making, make better sense of our world, know what is right, what is wrong, what is red, what is green, what is yellow, so that when you make decisions, when you wake up in the morning, you should be able to have access to data to tell you what requires more of your attention and what doesn't. And that is a function of data, knowing, making sense of your world, knowing what's working, knowing what's not working, but even more importantly, and Rachel will share this, knowing what might go wrong, and more importantly, knowing what to do now that you know something might go wrong. And technology and data and insights actually provides that as well through big data and analytics. And of course, there's an area, what we call the Internet of Things, which allows us to make infrastructure alive, allow infrastructure to talk to us even. So allowing ourselves to use sensors and trackers to monitor infrastructure, to know what is working, if a pipe is leaking, if water levels are going up or down, without us being physically there to inspect the infrastructure. But I've shared the context, I've shared what is required for us to do in municipalities. I've now also shared some of the emerging technologies that are out there. But the question is, so what? Right? So what? And that's the real question we should be asking ourselves. We really want to apply digital technology to transform really local government in terms of what local government does. But also, there's a piece of legislation called the Municipal Systems Act. And, that says, we need to ensure that local government is seen as a distinct sphere of government. And as I said, it is the business level of government, right? How do you also use technology by bringing in the solutions that are fit for purpose for what we do, but also speaking to our realities? National government and provincial government don't do the work that is done by local government. As I said, we are more of a business and we should operate that way, and we need the solutions and technologies that do such. Of course, we can also use technology to actually catch up with other industries, so to leapfrog and catch up with what other industries have been doing, whether it's banking, whether it's retail and so forth. And some of these emerging technologies that we spoke about require less upfront capital expenditure. They are much more plug and play, which means there's a quick time to deploy these solutions, and it can allow us to catch up with other industries. At the same time, you want to improve governance, right? We can't be accountants and risk professionals and not drive governance, but governance should not be work itself. We should be able to use technology to handle the governance for us so we can focus on things that really matter, improving services, innovating, doing things that really touch our lives and the lives of our citizens. Governance should be a given. Yes, there may be some ethical things that we need to, negotiate here and there, but technology can also help us enforce certain decisions that we need to make from an ethical and moral point of view, so that we can remove ourselves from those kind of complex decisions. And of course, it can allow us to unlock any OPEX and CAPEX efficiencies. And that's just about, we should not be just bringing technology for the sake of, but it must make business sense, as I said. It must lead to value from a cost point of view and also maximizing revenue, which is something that will be on all your scorecards for the rest of your lives. And of course, to enhance service delivery mechanisms, allow us to have a finger on the pulse, to know what's happening at any point in time in our municipalities. Similarly, when you wake up in the morning and you check your bank account, it actually gives you insights of what you can spend your money on, or where you're struggling on, whether you might need a loan, whether you might need to cut on certain costs. Similarly, we need to use technology to empower municipalities to make similar decisions. Where should we allocate CapEx? Where should we allocate certain costs? Where should we provide more resources? Where should we cut back? And that is a function of data, so that we avoid thumb sucking and so forth. We've got a little thinking of how you should be going back to your municipalities and adding some drama really to the people you report to, and say, how are we really using technology to create value? And are we creating value in what we do? Someone spoke about, having a chief value officer and some of these fancy titles, but at the basic level, it's about how do we use technology to maximize revenue, cut down costs, become more efficient, doing things quicker, faster, more predictable, right? But also being local government, how do we also drive socio-economic development using technology and technology programs, right? Bringing in the previously excluded into the mainstream, right? Ensuring that there's more economic activity where citizens are much more self-reliant, and if they're self-reliant, that means they're less reliant on government, and if they're less reliant on government, that means they become rate payers. We can actually, that means they can now contribute to the revenue that we need to achieve as municipalities. Of course, we need to use technology for citizen engagement, customer service, so that we bring the citizen closer, but also use technology to innovate and imagine other new services that municipalities can offer, either for revenue or for driving other ideals. I'm going to skip this slide, but this slide is a framework that we use, and I believe these slides will be shared with you. It's a framework that we use when we speak to your digital and IT teams in your municipality. And that's what we use when we deconstruct and diagnose interventions that need to be introduced through technology, right? You don't use technology by starting on the left. You use technology by starting on the right. What are the problem statements we're trying to solve as a municipality? What are the business processes we want to automate, right? What are the citizen experience and citizen needs do we need to improve? And then start going back to the left. What kind of digital infrastructure do I need to make this happen? What kind of data do I need to make this happen? What kind of applications and systems and apps do I need to make this happen, right? At the same time, what kind of people, which kind of people do I need to make this happen? What kind of skills as an accountant do I need to leverage the power of technology? At the same time, what kind of technical skills do we need from the IT guys to make this happen? What kind of behaviors, what kind of culture do we need to inculcate in a municipality to be much more driven about becoming better and better using technology? Of course, the reality is we're also under threat. Every single day we're hearing stories of cyber attacks and things like that. So equally, so what kind of security measures from a people point of view, from a system point of view, from a data point of view, do you need to bring in to secure our environment so we can become a continuous running business or a municipality? Of course, the kind of governance structures that are required, the policies that are required, we need to think about that too. And of course, making sure that we don't go against any legislation. And this is the last slide that I want to share on my side. We have, and want to share these 9 areas that we believe if we start introducing solutions in those areas, we can start building a much more digitalized, digitally transformed local government, right? Not the boring, unsexy, always criticized sector of government. Whenever you Google a municipality sometimes, or want a picture of some water leaking or sewage leaking, that's the picture of local government. Whenever you Google a municipality, mayor found guilty of XYZ. These are the realities, colleagues. So we should not shy away from these things. But at the same time, from a technology point of view, you and I have an opportunity to bring in some new thinking, fresh ideas, technologies that can change how we do what we do. That can force us, as you said in the first Mentimeter, doing the right things. And technology can force us and allow us to do the right things. And as we get better in doing the right things, do those things right, meaning more efficient as well. So we've got things of connected infrastructure. One use case of connected infrastructures may having sensors that monitor consumption of water, consumption of electricity, because you need that data as accountants to translate those consumption volumes into bills and how you bill and how you price, and that is a function of how then you're going to improve the revenue. But also you can use technology to bring the citizen closer, and that we call connected citizen. Being available anywhere, anytime for the customer, for the citizen. Omnipresent, using omni-channels, right? So just like when you have an error on your DSTV, you don't have to call multi-choice at any time of the day or night. You don't have to wait until the morning. You can grab your WhatsApp and solve most of those errors. Similarly, how do we bring these kind of solutions to help citizens solve their own account and billing issues without speaking to us anywhere, anytime? But those that do want to talk to us also being able to do and come to our offices as well. So being able to cater to all those requirements. But it's all about being connected, listening as well to the citizens, communicating back to the citizens, and ensuring that there's communication there. And some examples Rachel will share as well. Connected workforce, allowing anyone to work anywhere, anytime, right? Similarly, when there's a water leak in a ward, connected citizen technology should allow us to say, who is the closest engineer to this point of failure that can come and fix this thing? Right? Without having to wait for someone to complain or seeing on TV that, hey, there's a service delivery protest because there's been a leaking pipe for 3 days, right? Technology can allow us to, with that connectivity, to monitor and have a finger on the pulse on what's going on in any facet of the work that we do. We also like the concept of smart homes and smart buildings, right? A few years ago, the president of the country in the State of the Nation spoke about smart cities, and we need to focus on smart cities. We've been reading the State of the Nation ever since, and we've been counting the number of times it's been saying smart cities. And it's been, as a graph, it's been going to zero, right? But at the same time, nothing stops us as local government, because we are the drivers of this thing, to ask ourselves then, is there a smart city without smart homes? I don't think so. There's RDP homes that are out there that are provided by the state. How can we not retrofit them to be connected with smart infrastructure, smart meters, so that we actually can monitor as well consumption and usage as well? A big problem statement that we have as local government is that people that are supposed to receive free basic water, right, which are indigent, end up using more than the allocated water volume because they probably have backroom dwellers that they have, but we don't get to charge for the overconsumption that happened, because we don't necessarily have sensors and smart meters that give us that insight, let alone to cut or start billing automatically. And that's a revenue leakage right there. So you should be going back to your technical services colleagues in your municipalities, your water guys, to say, here's a way we can improve revenue by bringing in IoT and connected infrastructure in the homes to monitor consumption, so that there's no revenue leakage. Now we're bringing a problem statement, we're bringing technology, and you're in the center of it from a financial point of view and financial sustainability point of view. That's just bringing it home a bit, right? Without just talking hairy-fairy stuff. Paperless goes without saying. I always get annoyed if I have to fill in a form to apply for anything in a municipality or any government department for that matter, when we've got everything in the, when we've got devices on our hand. Smarter services, here we're looking at emerging technologies like drones. We're looking at things that traditionally were not used in local government, and see how we can use them to generate new services, generate revenue by introducing new services, or just provide more services to municipalities. For example, can a municipality start using drone for emergency response, surveying land? Can we buy drones and help emerging farmers to survey their own land and maximize their yields? And that leads to more economic development as well. Or can you even bill for that for other businesses that are actually much bigger? Hyper automation, I made an example about, you can start automating things that are more repeatable, high volume, invoice processing, financial year close, tax returns. We've got banks that are doing tax returns independent of human beings, because it's based on rules, it's based on having data, and you just need to build a bot to do that. And when you do the last part of the presentation, Rachel will actually give you an example of how you, as a non-IT person, can start skilling yourself up in areas of robotics in terms of process automation to make the municipality much more efficient. And the likelihood of a CFO that's over 45 years old to do this is quite slim. You're the ones who should be driving those innovations with the excitement that it comes with. Number 8 is about cybersecurity. I think we've already spoken about that. But for your concern, you should at the very least ask your IT professionals about how can we prevent attacks, so securing our environment. And if you can't prevent, how do we detect then if there's an attacks? If they can detect, then how do you respond if you get attacked? And of course, how do we recover? Because if business is not running, there's financial loss, both from a revenue, but also from a cost. So we need to ensure that our municipalities can be continuous at any point in time. So you need to demand and help your municipalities and IT professionals in terms of, do we have a proper cyber response, cyber monitoring, and so forth. But also from a governance point of view, you can start saying, how do you update our policies and our standard operating procedures to ensure that there's no data breaches, there's no data loss. Someone in a certain company, fortunately not a municipality, was surprised when they did not get paid 1 month because someone hacked into their email, and then they sent an email to HR and said banking details. HR took the email as legit because it was the email address. They did the changes, it ended there. Nothing back to the employee to verify using OTP or to verify in any other way using technology, and they only found out when they didn't get paid on the 25th. And these are realities that are there. So how then do we inculcate the right policies and standard operating procedures using technology so that even when we do make errors as human beings, it does happen, technology can cover us and actually make additional checks. It happens when you maybe got your bonus and you're busy swiping at Diamond Walk and your bank tells you, was it you who was swiping these things? Please verify before we release the payments. Because it's sort of out of character because you don't do it every day, I'm assuming, right? But at the same time, they are just saying, please verify if it's you. At least they manage to monitor and detect, but there's a way for you then as a human being to also say, look, indeed, that's what happened. Lastly, it's about a data-driven local government. Data, information. You need to be able to help your finance function and your municipality to a point where your CFO, your MM, or any other director, or any manager for that matter, can wake up in the morning, access a dashboard, and have an idea of what's going on in the municipality without having to call anyone. And that's a function of data analytics. And there's a number of opportunities and programs we're doing as well, which Rachel will just be sharing now. Maybe I should just introduce Rachel as well, from a data analytics point of view, because then every single area that we spoke about here is also a source of data. And we need to start becoming more data obsessed to say, how can we use all this data that's available to us to help us make decisions, detect, have early warning mechanisms, and so forth. So let me just leave it there. Thought I'll give you the quick background. We've probably got another 10 minutes or 15 minutes on the presentation. And then we can perhaps open up for some questions, some real life takeaways that you can take back home when you leave today. Rachel.